Hello and welcome to another trip report. I'm cruising at about 40 miles an hour southbound through the Scottish Highlands in the middle of summer. It's a wonderful journey that I'm on today. It's the Deerstalker, Caledonian Sleeper's headline sleeper service from Fort William to London Euston, and I'll be doing it in first class. Enjoy the video. Fort William is over 500 miles by rail from London and lies at the centre of the West Highland line. To the north are Arisaig and Maulin, and to the south, Glasgow and London. All of these passengers are waiting for the same train as me. There's even an unmanned thrift stall which works entirely on honesty. You wouldn't find that in London. There are no showers on board the train. First class passengers can access the showers at Fort William for free. There are separate male and female facilities here. There's a £5 charge if you're in standard class or in the seated accommodation. These showers were perfectly acceptable. The water pressure is fine and hot. Shampoo and towels are provided. The towels are absolutely fine, but you may prefer to use your own shampoo. The carriages for the sleeper train lie in the old motor rail sidings to the north of the station. Until the early 1990s, when the railways were privatised, you could have simply driven your car up that ramp and onto the train, taking it with you to London on a special wagon. With around 45 minutes to go until departure, the carriages are shunted back down into one of the platforms and the departure process can begin. It's worth pointing out that this journey took place in the last summer that these carriages are due to run on the West Highland line. Caledonian Sleeper have brand new Mark V carriages on order from a Spanish train manufacturer. The interiors look absolutely fantastic, including a new club lounge car and even some luxury double suites. I am booked on the inaugural train on June the 2nd and I can't wait. Stay subscribed to this channel to find out just what it's like. The West Highland line is not electrified, and so a Class 73 electro diesel will take us as far as Edinburgh Waverley this evening. Despite their age, these locomotives bear the new Caledonian Sleeper livery. I think the new logo is absolutely fantastic. That's me. Thank you.
I was just telling you about your room, and if you fill out your breakfast card within half an hour, I'll check on it.
Grand, thank you very much.
Sleeper passengers need to check in with the hosts on the platform, and from there you're free to board the train at your leisure. As a consequence of inventing the railways and therefore having a large network of them before anyone else, we have narrow trains built to fit on Victorian infrastructure. You'll be able to get most suitcases along this corridor, but don't worry, there is help on hand if you're struggling. My berth for this evening is number 3, the third one along. There'll be time for a more detailed room tour later in the video, but this is pretty much how you'll find it as you board. The bed is made and the blind is down. First class passengers receive a complimentary breakfast. You need to fill in this card and hang it on your door, just as you would in a good hotel. The place to be for the evening is the lounge car, an old British Rail Mark II. It's actually one of the oldest carriages still running in scheduled service on the network. There are actually 2 types of lounge car in service. There's this one with the fixed seats, and there's also a different type with movable chairs and fixed sofas. All sleeper passengers have the right to enter the lounge car, but if you're in first class, you'll get a table reservation for dinner. It's very civilised to order a drink and watch the train slowly depart Fort William on its 14-hour odyssey down to London. There's a comprehensive menu on board both for drinks and food. Feel free to pause the video here if you want to read more. I actually pre-ordered my meal online on the Caledonian Sleeper website. I've gone for a Scottish classic, haggis, neeps and tatties. This is a traditional Scottish dish, and the name comes from the Scots dialect. I don't really want to have to explain to you what haggis is, I'd rather let Wikipedia do that. The neeps are Scots for turnips, and they're crushed here. Tatties, of course, are your potatoes, and here they're mashed. The whole dish is accompanied by caramelised onions with whiskey. Absolutely perfect. For dessert, I went for the raspberry frangipane tart, which was absolutely fantastic. Of course, I only indulged in this purely for research purposes. If you're going to do this journey, then I implore you to do it in midsummer. Fort William is further north than some places in Alaska, and the latitude catches people out. If you do this journey in winter or in early spring or late autumn, the entire journey will be in darkness. Conversely, in summer, you could expect a 7 p.m. departure to have several hours of daylight ahead. This train takes 4 hours to get to Glasgow, and it still wasn't completely dark by the time we arrived there. The West Highland line is consistently voted among the top scenic railway journeys that you can do anywhere in the world. This stretch of line was completed in the 1890s, and it's almost impossible to imagine how difficult it must have been to engineer this line over such inhospitable terrain. In the winter, this part of the world is almost completely frozen. 1 hour after leaving Fort William, we arrive in Corne, which is the highest railway station in the UK by elevation. It's also arguably the most remote. There is no public road access to this station, just a private track. There is just about nothing here. However, Corne is quite popular with hill walkers and hikers who use this station as a convenient start point for their walks. The station buildings haven't served the station in quite some time. They're now a very popular guest house and restaurant. From Corne, the train traverses the inhospitable and remote Rannoch Moor. The old permanent way shed in the next shot reminds us of the harsh conditions that people would have had to live and work to construct this line back in the 19th century. This is Rannoch. Rannoch is notable for two things. Firstly, you'll notice the train actually passes on the right here instead of on the left, and this is to simplify some shunting moves at the south of the station. Secondly, this flashing blue light signifies that we're entering a radio electronic token block system. Essentially, the trains here are controlled over the single line ahead by a radio signal issued from the signal box. In the old days, you would have to have a physical token, usually a piece of metal on the end of a long loop. Both the radio and physical tokens do the same thing. They ensure that only one train is in the single line section at any one time. Right, let's do a room tour. The first thing to note is something which is true of most sleeper cabins anywhere you'll come across in the world. There is not much space for your bags. This suitcase of mine has to live on the floor, and my large full-size cabin bag will just about fit in the overhead racks. The window also comes with a privacy blind, similar to what you'd find on an aircraft. Now, there is a bit of a knack to actually closing this blind, as you can see here, and it's especially difficult if you're right-handed and trying to do it with your left. The wash basin is located under the table, which you can lift up and hook on this small latch here. Be warned, the water here is not drinking water, it's just for washing your face and brushing your teeth. The pressure is fine, both hot and cold, and you need to keep pressing the taps to get more water. There are 4 USB charge points above the sink and also a single bottle of water. The bed is around 6 feet long and will be ready made for you when you arrive with fresh linen, sheets and pillows. You don't need to bring your own. If you have a standard class ticket, then you'll find yourself sharing a berth with someone. The top bunk is seen here folded away. If you have to use this bunk, it will be already made up by the staff for you in the same way my bottom bunk is. There are also duplicated attendant call buttons and light switches for both the top and bottom bunks. There's also a temperature control valve. The main light switches are found towards the ceiling. The main light can be turned on and off, and for night time there's also a night light which you can see here. First class passengers will receive an Aran Aromatics goodie bag which is seen here. There's a small selection of toiletries included. The pillow spray is actually some sort of lavender scent which you're supposed to spray on your pillow. Apparently it makes you sleep better. The most useful things in the kit are this branded eye mask, a hand towel and of course earplugs. Each berth has a fold down table. This is very useful for when your breakfast is served to you in the morning. Each berth can be locked from the inside. There is no external lock and there is no key to each berth. But don't worry, crime on these trains is almost unheard of. Toilets are located at the end of each corridor. This is a very rare example of gendered toilets on trains. I'm not quite sure why the sleeper is treated differently. The toilets are perfectly acceptable. They're kept clean and tidy throughout the journey by the cabin attendants. It's worth noting that these toilets don't have a handle to flush. Instead, there's a continental style push button on the floor. This is much more hygienic in my view. Now I've given you an overview of the facilities on board, I have to tell you I feel a little conflicted about the arrival of brand new trains. The real appeal to me of this Caledonian Sleeper Deerstalker service is the visceral nature of the journey. There are opening windows, everything goes clickety-clack and you can feel at one with the Scottish Highlands. Nonetheless, I accept that I am an enthusiast. The brand new trains will bring a luxury, high-end experience to this journey, and it's going to be so much more appealing, especially to people from abroad and people who don't traditionally use the train. Overall, I do think it's a good thing. As the branch from Oban joins from the west, we stop at Crianlarich. Crianlarich is essentially the beginning of the end of the Scottish Highlands. From here the journey flattens out down the Clyde estuary and into the urban sprawl of the Glasgow conurbation. It's a good excuse to head to the lounge car and grab one final Scottish snack before bed, an iron brew and a Tunnock's tea cake. One thing I really do recommend that you do if you come on the sleeper is to bring your own pyjamas. It does get quite cold here. It's just gone 11:30. We've just gone through Glasgow and I think it's time for me to turn in. Good night. After a good 6 hours sleep, I wake up somewhere in Staffordshire and we're rushing at 90 miles an hour towards London Euston.
Hiya. Lovely. Thank you very much.
Remember, I'd placed my order last night. I got the full traditional breakfast option here, which you can see is perfectly acceptable. The coffee was more than welcome. I had a busy day in London ahead. As a final note, in the morning you may find the lounge car in a different position in the train to where it was the previous evening. That's because this train joins up with other portions from Aberdeen and Inverness to make a 16 carriage long train. That all happens at Edinburgh Waverley, and the carriages are shunted around for the journey to London. Into London at 7:45 in the morning, right on time and ready for a full day in London ahead. Showers are available here at London Euston in the Virgin Trains first class lounge, complimentary for first class sleeper passengers. And that really is the value of sleeper train travel. It solves the accommodation and travel problems in the one solution.
And that's it, guys. Welcome to London Euston. In my opinion, the Deerstalker service that I've just been on is one of the greatest train experiences you can have in the world, anywhere. Let me know what you think of the journey in the comments below, but until next time, I'll see you around.